Hi, this is the second part of lesson 1.2. We're going to talk about properties of real numbers, the different properties of real numbers, and how to simplify expressions using those properties. We've used these. We just have never maybe put a name to the process. So we're going to try and do a little bit of that. The first property we're going to talk about is the commutative property. I'm going to switch to is the commutative property. Think about CO, the first two letters of commutative, and think about change the order. And basically what this says is that you can change the order that you add or multiply numbers together without changing the value. So for instance, 5 plus 3 is 8, but so is 3 plus 5. I can change that order without changing the value. 5 times 3 is 15, and so is 3 times 5. I can change the order without changing the value. The next property we're going to talk about is the associative property. Associative property. And when you see the word associative, notice it has a root word in it, associate. Okay? Think about who you associate. Who are the people in your group of friends, in your group? Okay? So you can change the way that numbers are grouped without changing the value. And we can do this for both addition and multiplication. So for instance, I can take 5 and add it to the quantity of 3 plus 4, or I can add 5 plus 3 and add it to 4. Okay, change the way that the numbers are grouped. Notice that 5 is still first, 3 is still second, and 4 is still third. Haven't changed their order, just change the way where those parentheses are placed. And I can do it for a multiplication as well. And it would be 5 times 3 times 4. Associative property changes how they are grouped. All right, this next slide has two different properties on it, and they each have an additive and a multiplicative version. The identity property is the first one that we're going to talk about. Okay, identity, identical. Okay, so there is a number that you can add to every other number in the universe, and it doesn't change its value. That number is 0. 0 is the additive identity. There is also a number that you can multiply by every number in the universe, and it doesn't change the value, and that number is 1. So 5 plus 0 equals 5. That is representative of the additive identity. 5 times 1 equals 5. That is an example of the multiplicative identity. Similar, and a lot of students get confused between whether they're looking at the identity property or the inverse property, it is this inverse property. And that is the number that you, in the case of addition, the number that you add to get to 0. Okay, so if I start with the number 5, what do I add to it to get 0? Well, I add the opposite. I add the opposite. So 5 and negative 5 are additive inverses of each other. The additive inverse of 5 is negative 5. The additive inverse of negative 5 is 5. The multiplicative inverse is the number that we multiply a number by so that we get to a product of 1. So that's the reciprocal. You flip the fraction. If you have an integer, you put it 1 over that integer. If you have a fraction, you put it, you flip that fraction. That's what reciprocals do. The next property is the distributive property, and basically what it says is that any number outside a grouping symbol is multiplied by every number on the inside of the grouping symbol. So when we look at 2 times 9 minus 5, I'm going to distribute the 2 and multiply it by each term on the inside. So that becomes 2 times 9 minus 2 times 5. Or you could also write it as plus 2 times negative 5. It doesn't matter. Okay? 3 times x plus 3 times y. That's the distributive property. Look at what we've done. We've multiplied the number on the outside by every number on the inside, or every term on the inside, because in this example, we don't have numbers, we have letters on the inside. So I want you to hit pause. I want you to complete as many of these as you can. The first section, actually just do the first section, and I want you to name the property that's illustrated, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the bottom section here. So go ahead, hit pause, look for a question, and then come back. All right, so this is the associative. This is the distributive. And this is the additive identity. All right. Hopefully you did well on those. Now for this bottom section, what it's asking you to do are find the inverses, okay? And for every number, there's an additive inverse and a multiplicative inverse. So what we're going to do is we're going to find, I want you to hit pause, and I want you to find the additive and multiplicative of each of these numbers. Now remember that you may have to do some work on the number just a little bit to get it in a form that you need. Like C, that's a mixed number. Make it an improper fraction before you find the multiplicative inverse. All right? Okay. All right, so the additive inverse of negative 5/8 is positive 5/8. The multiplicative inverse is negative 8/5. Notice that I'm not changing the sign on the multiplicative inverse. I'm just changing the fraction. On the additive inverse, that's where I'm changing the sign. On B, negative 1.25. And then this is 1 over 1.25, which is equal to 0.8. And then 2.5, we have negative 2.5. That's the additive inverse. Change the sign. This is 5/2. This is also 5/2. So to find the multiplicative inverse, we would flip that fraction and do 2/5. Right? All right, now we're going to use some of these steps and some of these properties to simplify expressions. In our daily assignment tomorrow, I want you to write the problem down, and then each simplification step, I want you to tell me what property you used. So for this first one, I need to distribute first. So I'm going to get 36a plus 30b minus 12a minus 21b. That's a 3. Okay. Now I'm going to move the a's closer together and the b's closer together. This is the commutative property. I can change the order. So I have 36a minus 12a. Notice that I bring that sign, I'm going to highlight that sign that goes with the 12a right there, okay? And then I have plus 30b minus 21b. And now I can just combine like terms. So this becomes 24a, and this becomes 9b, and you're done. So you go ahead, hit pause, try this one, and then come back and see how well you did. All right, I'm going to distribute first, and I get 12x minus 4y plus 2y plus 6x. I'm going to move my 6x around. That's the commutative property. And then I'm going to combine these. And I'm going to combine these. And I'm done. I simplified it. All right. All right, so that's part 2, and we're going to work these problems tomorrow in class as our daily assignment. Thanks for listening. See you then.